Easy, Matumbo.
Matumbo.
All right. Well, welcome back to.
Let me get all the.
Oh gosh, I would like if you just throw up right now. I'll clean it up later.
Let me get the Corona out.
Welcome back to. I don't even know what episode this is.
13.
13? Really?
This is episode 13.
We took some time off for the holiday, which was Thanksgiving. We hope everyone had a safe holiday.
Did you have a good Thanksgiving, Colin?
I did. Yeah.
Good.
Saw my niece and nephew I haven't seen in a few months, so that was nice. Did you?
I did. Spent some time with Taylor's family. Spent some time with my family. Got to make some turkey.
I want to point out that turkey you made, I only had like literally a piece of it. It was so good. It could have been that I was so hungry, but still, it was so good.
Well, thank you.
I'm gonna clip the microphone. It was so good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I will probably be making another one soon because my parents have some extra turkeys. So it's in the near future.
And I don't even like turkey, but this was good.
All right, so
yes,
today the topic.
Mm-hmm. We're sticking with the F theme.
We're sticking with the Fs.
The F. Now, what did we just start with? What was the first one?
Failure,
fear,
and
fear. Now
faith.
We're at faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we even get into that, what the hell is going to be next week?
Ficuses.
Franchise.
Friends.
Maybe
not the TV show. That's a piece of show.
Maybe we'll have Nick on.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm okay with that.
All right, rock and roll. Over the next couple of weeks, what we're probably going to be doing is, because I like what we're doing, what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Before we record the podcast on social media, texts, whatever, we just say, hey, if you have any questions about us for this topic, let us know.
Yeah.
And I think I've already got like 6 questions from people.
Nice.
So
yeah, so hopefully we'll have, the next question, or the next podcast will be probably about friends.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll most likely have Nick on. So if you have any questions that you want to ask, whether, how we all met or, what, we'll bring up a lot of things. So stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram. I believe our Instagram handle is just Prone to Ponder Podcast. Yeah, it's Prone to Ponder Podcast. Once you click on it, you'll see our happy mugs on there. So, yeah.
Rock and roll. So what do you want to talk? What do you want to start with?
Well, let's talk about what faith means for us.
Okay.
Because faith is such a broad,
very broad term. Yeah.
I think it's a good thing to sort of talk about where either we got it from or what it means for you and what it means for me. Because I think, especially now, considering we met in the church, some 10, 13 years ago, something like that. It was actually in July of 2009. I don't know why I remember that, but yeah, in Kentucky, West Liberty, Kentucky. Christopher and I, essentially, like I just mentioned, we met in a church, a local church here. We don't go to that church anymore because of, growing up and going on with our lives and doing different things. We sort of drifted away from that church. But I feel like they use that word all the time, like your identity in a church. Like, what was your identity? And what would you say yours was?
In the church?
In the one we went to, yes.
Because by identity, you mean like role? Or what do you mean by
like,
identity?
how did you see yourself there? Like, because I had many different identities going through there because I didn't, it was, for one, it was at a high school for a while.
Right.
I didn't know anybody there because my mom was told to go to this church because my parents were getting divorced and it was a good thing. And she was told by one of her best friends, and we went and,
was your mom a strong believer before that?
No.
Really?
We didn't really talk about it. There was there was no talking of God or anything like that. The earliest memories that I have were, I was like in 5th grade when we started going, 5th or 4th grade, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it because I was so tired and all I wanted to do was sleep in on the, on the weekends and blah, blah, blah. But
yeah. Well, to answer that question then, I think my identity, I mean, it's hard because we were in that weird time of age, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like you're doing anything in it. Well, at least I was doing anything and everything I can to try and find what my identity was. Right. So I grew up going to church my whole life with my parents and my sister, and we were pretty involved with a church that we used to go to prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I never really felt. It never felt my own. You know, it always felt like
the previous church.
Right.
Okay.
It always felt like my parents' thing,
Right,
and
right.
you know, I made the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
But at this church, because of the fact that like literally the first time that we went there, Donnie is like, all right, we're going to start doing a small group at your house. And literally like the next week we started small group at my house, and that small group grew from the original 4 people that were there. And that ended up growing into, I think we had 30 kids at the house at one point. Yeah.
I never went.
No.
Surprisingly, no.
But that's how I became best friends with Nick.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it always started because of music.
Right.
Like I started playing drums that year.
Mm-hmm.
Nick's like, I started playing guitar like 2 years ago. We should start a band. I'm like,
as you
all
do
right.
it at 12 years old.
Exactly. I'm like, all right, that sounds awesome. So we started learning like Nirvana songs and Green Day songs.
Yeah, as you do.
As we do. And we're like, I bet we could like just do like the worship music for the small group. We had my full drum set, and Nick had the little micro cube, like a
that thing's
3-inch
powerful
speaker.
though. Not over drums though.
Not when you're trying to pump guitar and vocals through it. No, it is not.
Especially Nick's vocals.
Yeah, man, it was silly. So we
sounds like a party to me,
dude. It was so.
It was so
bless
bad.
my parents' hearts, man,
Yeah.
for actually letting us do that, dealing with it.
Yeah.
But that's how we got real close. And I think my identity always stayed on that path of, okay, well, I have a role in this church, right? I have a duty to be a leader. And I think, and I mean, you knew I always was at that church. Like I was always on the worship team.
Yeah.
I led the worship team for like 2 years in a row. And you know, we always were at the church property just doing different projects and trying to get involved in whatever way that we could. And I mean, there was a time where I thought that was like maybe a career path for me.
Yeah.
Like I thought, okay, well maybe I like doing this.
Yeah.
I like being around these people.
Mm-hmm.
I like having something different to do every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how can I continue to do this and get paid for it? So
Yeah.
I sort of thought maybe that could be
A thing. Yeah.
a thing,
Mhm.
right?
You were very involved.
I was.
With, and this is speaking from experience. I mean, I remember you being on the worship team, and you know, your small group was one of the only ones that like ever really lasted very long. I mean, it lasted almost the entire time that I was there.
Yeah.
And I was there for, you know, over 10 years. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Mine, I think, well, for one, like I mentioned, I really hated it. I did not like going. It was never a thing that I wanted to do on a Sunday. And my mom was like, my mom needed this.
Mm-hmm.
She needed to go to this. So she would drag me every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. because we'd go and set up.
Oh yeah.
But what I would do is I would just go sit in the church and just watch the worship band as they practiced and got ready and stuff like that. And then this little old kid kept talking to me, and that's how I met Nick. And so Nick would come over and chit chat, and we'd talk, and he'd be like, yeah, come over to the, you know, the 5th grade, you know, the
man,
5th
even
grade
as
group.
a kid, he was a freaking PK, man.
Yeah, he was. But my mom like tried so hard. She's like, dude, you're gonna love it. Like, you're with kids. Like, you're with kids. Just go hang out with the kids. And I'm like, I don't want to. I'm a punk. Like, I just want to be here and just like sleep. And I would like fall asleep every Sunday. And so it wasn't until like 6th or 7th grade that I actually got kind of forced into going to a Bible study, which I didn't like because it was with Lucas.
He was such a bully.
I loved it. He was.
I mean, he's one of the funniest people I've ever met.
Absolutely.
But exclusively by putting other people underneath him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Love the guy.
He's
though.
kind of a jerk, but he's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. I had a good time with him. So I did that for a little while, and then some stuff happened, and I made some poor decisions, and I was sort of thrown into a opportunity at, how old are you in 8th grade? Like 14, 13, 13,
Yeah, around there.
13, yeah, to go to Mexico. So
Right.
a big thing that our youth pastor, so Nick's dad was our youth pastor basically the entire time we were there. He loved doing missionary trips. So he would go to Juarez, Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, like all across the world. He was just like, that was his thing. And even now he works in missions. So that was like his big thing. And so we'd even do local ones like Kentucky, or we'd go to Florida sometimes, or Mississippi, and all these things. Like, and that was like his big thing. That was what his budget was all the time. So he looked at me and was like, look, man, like you're going to need to go to, you're going to go to Mexico, whether you like it or not. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And he's like, you're going. I'm like, okay, fine.
That's exactly the same way my conversation was with him.
Well, I remember
He
talking.
just dragged kids to Mexico. That's
I know.
not okay.
No. I never came back. I just remember going to like so many lunches with Kevin, the intern Kevin.
Yeah.
Like
He was a cool cat.
He was cool. Like 3 to 4 days a week, he'd take me
Yeah.
out to lunch, and he'd be like, "Look, dude, I don't like. You can tell me no all you want. You're going to Mexico.
Yeah.
Like you're under 18. Your mom's the boss of you. Like you're gonna drag you to a van." And I honestly am so thankful for that. Like it changed my life. I met your dad there. I met your sister and her friend, I think. I don't know. I met so many wonderful people, and I was able to experience faith in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't being shoved down my throat. But also, like, it was, you really get humbled by the whole experience.
Sure.
So my identity was a lot different than yours. I didn't grow up in the church. Church was a Christmas thing. Like, we just never did it.
Yeah.
And then it became something different after that trip. That was like the pillar that changed, or I shouldn't say the pillar, like the dividing line.
So why do you think it changed after that? Do you think it was a change in your heart? Do you think it was a change in your perspective?
I think it was definitely a change in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I was a very angry kid for a whole lot of different reasons, and maybe we'll talk about that one day. But I really just hated like life and people, and I think it just sort of like pushed me out of the ground and was like, "You need to chill, bro. Like just stop. And it really did change my perspective. And I remember I went on 3 mission trips that entire summer. So whatever 8th grade or 7th grade to 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And at the last one, I was talking to one of the youth leaders, and I was like, I don't know who I am, because I feel like I was someone, but that wasn't really me. Like looking back on that, it wasn't really me. And so I think that my eyes were open to like what I was doing and all those things, because I was hurting a lot of people at the time. But there were cliques.
Oh no, totally.
There were 100% cliques. There were the kids that were like, look, I'm cool, but I'm here.
Yeah.
There were also people like, in a sense, I don't even know how you'd call it. You weren't like popular, but you were also like, everybody knew like you were like the poster child for, youth group, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm not trying to make that seem bad.
I was the nerd.
But I mean, like your whole group,
Yeah.
everybody a part of that. And I was sort of like the outcast that was like, well, I don't know any of you. I don't really go to school around here. So I kind of made friends with like all the weird kids and like Brandon and Dominic. And I sort of fell into that crowd, but they were all a lot older than me. So I couldn't really relate. And it wasn't until like 5130 that I went on when I was a freshman in high school that really sort of put me into a different, into more of a concrete group of kids. But it's funny, I looked forward to church for the longest time, but then I was drafted into my church career was more or less in high school. It wasn't until high school that I sort of found an identity, and I joined like the Wednesday night journey and was able to be a small group leader.
Yeah,
and
you were a
things
part
like
of that for a long time.
Yeah, from sophomore to like freshman of college. I mean, I was in there for a while. It was the same thing. Like, I think a lot of people go through that phase of, I can make this a living. Like, I could do this. And I had a really good mentor at the time that really kind of lifted me up and walked me through a lot of things. And at the time of the journey small group that we did for junior high kids, I knew a lot of people, but I loved the attention that I got. I was the cool, the funny kid that everybody wanted to get, and I just latched onto that.
Yeah.
And
You found like a sense of
comfort,
purpose.
in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I loved just the attention that all the kids gave me and all the parents and all these things. And it was that is what I latched onto. And it wasn't the fact that I was doing this for God or to teach the gospel to these kids. I didn't care. Like that was not, I found a place. I found a place that I belong. And I felt so happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
Once you go through high school, they basically sort of like kick you out. You know, once you're graduating, you're moved on, you know, either you go off to school or you stick around and you just go to the big church and, you know, you become an adult. But I didn't do that. So I thought I would hang out with the high schoolers and be more of a mentor and sort of work my way, because I knew a few people, and you were still around for a little bit, and then you went to college and blah, blah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then I guess they were sort of like weeding me out. And I was like telling him, I was like, look, I still feel very passionate about being here, and I want to help, and I want to do these things. At the time, like my perspective had changed, like from being, I want all the attention and be wanted and accepted, to like, okay, I actually want to do this.
Right.
And they were sort of like, it's kind of too late. Like, we need you to move on. And I, at the time, like I wasn't going to college, I didn't have a job. And I asked them, I was like, hey, is there any way you could pay me? And they said, no, like, we're going to need you to like go away. And at that point I was like, well, then what was the point of all of this? Like, what's the point of diving into a church when no one even accepts you? And I guess it's not the outcome that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sort of turned me off from the idea of being in a church.
So
period.
We've been talking for 21 minutes now about church.
Yes.
And it's interesting to me that the topic is faith.
Yep.
And the first thing you brought up is church.
Uh-huh.
And we've talked about this before, about disconnecting the two.
That's true.
Because church is unfortunately run by humans.
Yeah.
And we are all flawed.
Yep.
And the cliques and the politics and the backstabbing and the not caring is always going to exist in a church.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about faith.
And disconnecting that idea of, well, I've been, burned by the church, so I don't feel like I can have faith. Because I feel like that's where most people who don't have faith can walk that idea back to, well, I hated church, or I hated something about church, or I hated something about someone who was in the church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say is I would say, like, I don't have a faith because of that.
Uh-huh.
It's sort of, I had to change my faith.
Right.
Because a lot of the things that they were saying at the church didn't line up with what I believed in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whether that was, whatever, if you know what prosperity gospel is, that if you do good things will be onto you. It's like, it's not always true. Things like that.
Yeah.
Or like divorce is justified. It's like, okay, I just don't line up with what they were saying. I wanted like what Jim would do, like the real hard things. Like, look, life sucks. You are going to mess up because you suck.
Yeah.
But we have a God that loves you anyway.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. But there was not that. There was these people, anyway, it wasn't so much.
Long story short, that's why we left that church.
Right. But also it sort of had to change my faith. Like I still don't really believe in a church because of what you're saying is they are flawed and they always have issues and that's every place. That's not just churches. This is every place. But anyway,
Right.
So my faith had to change whether or not and it sort of became like, personally now, I feel like my faith is slipping to more of and that's not, I don't think it's anyone's fault, and I don't even think it's a bad thing, because I think it's natural for you to fall out of things.
Yeah, totally.
And it's not that I don't believe in God or believe that there's a purpose, and I believe there's a purpose for everything. It's just I feel like I'm like the connection that I normally had or that I had at that time, I question it. I was like, was I believing in God, or was I believing in the people that were talking about God?
Or like you said earlier, like, were you only trying and doing stuff and being a part of it because you were looking for some sort of worldly thing like attention,
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Would you call yourself a Christian? Not in the church sense of the word, but like the biblical, do you believe that there is...
I do believe that there is a God.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And do you believe that Jesus is real?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I would probably say you're a Christian. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can say no. No judgment
No,
here.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. Christians, and
Mhm.
I think a lot of other religions as well, have testimonies.
Sure.
Do you have one?
Yes.
Would you like to share it?
I sort of did. I said, I sort of already did. Like what I was explaining through the church.
Okay, so
yeah.
that okay.
Yeah.
So that's that.
I mean, there's like a lot of details left out for kind of safety reasons.
Yeah.
So
True.
rather not share that. If you want to know what it is, I will tell people in person. It's a very big deal to me.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't believe me that it was actually there, but you know, I have mentioned before, I was a stupid, angry kid, and
Yeah.
I made some very, very poor choices. Do you want to tell yours?
Yeah.
Because we do have some questions to get to.
Yes, we do have questions.
But
to
we
get to.
we can.
Um,
There's no time limit. We can
No,
do a
there-
4-hour podcast. Let's not. Okay, I gotta go to bed soon. Well, explain what a testimony is.
Yeah, so a testimony could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
What I think, from my perspective, when I use the word testimony, it's like the come to God moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like what was the moment in time
Yeah.
that you remember, okay, this is real,
Yeah.
or okay, this is happening, and I'm
Mhm.
going to commit to believing this. Because I mean, even the Bible says, well, it's not a one and done thing. You gotta pick up that cross daily.
Yep.
You know, you have to choose to believe daily. And that's something that I don't think they preach enough in church, right?
No.
It's, they say, oh, once you,
Well, it's like fire insurance.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Like you do this just so you don't go to hell.
Right.
You know, or
Right.
you go to church on Christmas so you don't go to hell.
Right. But yeah, so I mean, like my testimony, I have several, 3 specifically, but the first one that I ever remember happening, and like I said, my whole youth, I grew up going to church and
Right.
everything, and I always remember, I think, just taking God and taking faith pretty seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I never had that like come to God moment. I never had that moment where I'm like, oh, damn, this is the real deal, right?
Right.
And I do remember, I think as a freshman, I had a dream one night where I was running.
Mm-hmm.
I don't run. Like I didn't at the time. I was a freshman. I was a freshman. I did not run ever. I thought running and exercise was just stupid. And I was running, and I wasn't like running to exercise. I was like running away from something. And I don't know what it was. And I finally get to this clearing of this field, and all the reeds are sticking up, and I can see that there's water in front of me. So I've gotten to this edge of this lake or whatever it is. It's like golden hour, so everything is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
I can't stand anymore. You know, like in dreams when you like don't really have control of your body.
Yeah.
It just feels so heavy. So I like drop to my knees. As I dropped to my knees, I heard words, like booming words, like say, I miss you, come home. I miss you, come home.
Mm-hmm.
And I got up and I was able to walk home. I woke up that next morning sort of having like a fuzzy version of that dream in my head. Like I didn't remember it so vividly. But the next morning was the day after Christmas. So I had that dream Christmas night. So the day after Christmas,
Interesting.
I woke up and I went downstairs and do you remember when CDs were a thing?
A what? A what?
Oh, what? And I got my Reliant K CD that I got for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I went into my parents' office and I put it in the computer and I downloaded it onto my brick iPod.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for a run because it was like really nice out. And at this point, I didn't quite remember that I dreamed that I was running. Dreamt, whatever.
Yes.
I went out for a run and it was a pretty nice day for being, December 26th. It was probably 40 degrees. And I left pretty early because I'm an early riser, and started running, and I was listening to my whole iPod on shuffle.
Yeah.
And 3,000, 4,000 songs on shuffle. And I get to this point where like I said, I do not run and I'm asthmatic.
Yeah.
I couldn't breathe, right? So I stopped running and I stopped to catch my breath. I like look up and I see I'm in this space with the reeds exactly as they were, the sun exactly as it was, and I'm standing in front of this pond, and it's beautiful and it's calm. And on my iPod, the song that I was listening to was a song I'd never heard before in my life.
Yeah.
And it's off of the record from Relient K that I had just downloaded. And the lyrics are, when I got tired from running from you, I stopped right there to catch my breath. They're your words, they caught my ear. You said, I miss you, son, come home. And my sins, they watched me leave. And in my heart, I so believed. The love I felt for you was mine, the love I'd wished for all this time. And when the doors were closed, I heard no, I told you so's. I said the words I knew you knew. Oh God, I needed you. God, all this time I needed you, I needed you. And that song is I So Hate Consequences by Relient K. It was exactly, I don't know, I don't believe in that kind of coincidence.
Yeah.
Where, I don't know, there's got to be something
Right.
bigger writing that, pulling the strings on that.
Yeah, it is one of those, like, the dots are connected that just are like, it blows your mind.
Blows it, especially freaking freshmen.
Right.
Like blew my little freshman mind.
Right.
That was the first time that I remember that. And I went home and it was the love was mine. Like what I had wished for, what I wanted was to feel that my faith was my own. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I ever felt like that was actually happening.
Right.
Yeah. And ever since then, it's been up, down, roller coaster.
Which is normal.
And
I mean, there
also
were life.
Right. There were times where I would literally drop to my knees and scream at God because I was so angry. Yeah. And there were other times where I'm like, well, I'm just
trusting it.
I'm just trusting it. And there are other times where I'm like, I'm not even going to scream at God because he's not even there. And then the next day I get kicked in the ass by God and he's like, what? What?
That's the crazy thing is that's like the roller coaster of faith.
Right.
I would say, as I think about it, what my testimony is very similar to, and not like exact, but is how Saul became Paul. And, in my youth, I was an arrogant, angry person. I fought a lot. I didn't really do work. I felt that I was above certain things. Mm-hmm. And at one point, you hit, if you don't know the story of Saul or Paul was not an apostle of Jesus when Jesus was alive. He became apostle after Jesus died, and he became one of the most most important apostle of the Bible.
He wrote most of the New Testament.
Exactly, and that's a big deal. So he was a Pharisee, and Pharisees were kind of like the Jewish law hierarchy priests people. They were arrogant, they were dirty, they, followed everything to a T. But Saul was ones that killed Christians. Mm-hmm. He would cut their heads off. And one day he was on a horse to Damascus, and he fell off his horse from a booming voice in the sky. So essentially, he was knocked off his high horse.
God can be very poetic sometimes.
Exactly. And
in the funniest ways.
In the funniest way. And he was told, he told him, and he said, Saul asked, he's like, who are you? Who are you? He goes, I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting. And that's when Saul sort of his life changed, and he was blind for 3 days, and he didn't eat anything. And that's just, honestly, I wasn't blind and didn't eat for 3 days. But in a sense, what had happened to me is I was at the height of an arrogant person to a point where God had to literally shove me off my high horse and open my eyes. And because I was blinded to so many different things, and I realized I was hurting my mom, I was hurting my sister, and I was endangering so many different people, and I was endangering myself, and I was ruining my future to the point where I could either be a life or death scenario. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It was clicking when you were talking. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Why do you think faith is so important in life? Whether that be faith in God or faith in, I think what a lot of religious people, they have faith in their church, right? Or faith in themselves and their deeds. faith in science, faith in whatever, faith in your family and your
Yeah.
friends. Why is faith so important?
I mean, it gives people to believe in something. And I think as humans, you can even look at the Bible. Moses went up to the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't come back. And he comes back, and all of a sudden they're worshiping something else. And he's like, "Hold on, I was like, what happened?"
Did not take long.
No, and so it's like people need something to believe in.
Yeah.
Whether it's an addict needs, if they beat an addiction, they go into a different addiction, whether that's like social media or people or whatever it is. Like there is a pull that people have towards something, and that's faith can be broken down into so many different terms.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is important because it keeps us moving forward in a sense, because at least for Christians, we understand the end goal. The end goal is, or the goal of a life of a Christian is to, love others as he has loved us.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the 10 Commandments to your best of your ability and spread the gospel. That's like the main things. Now, is everybody going to do that in their lifetime? Probably not. Most people probably will fail short, and that's okay. It's going
All have failed short.
before the glory of God. Yes. It is a thing to strive for. It keeps people moving forward, and with science or with whatever it is, if it's a science, it's discovery. It's discovering if there is a God or how the universe was, that drives them. Well, let's get to these questions.
Yes.
First question. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So my lovely lady, she's going to kill me for saying that, has a question. What differentiates a cult from religion?
Well, let's find what is the definition of.
Okay, I'll look.
What is the definition of cult?
Here's the definition of cult. A system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object.
It's pretty similar to a religion.
A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister, misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. The cult of Saint Olaf. I've been impaled.
Because they're dead. I think that, radical faith can sometimes lead to a cult. I think, if I can't speak freely, that the church we were a part of, I wouldn't say they were a full-blown cult, but
It got culty.
it definitely got culty at some point towards the end.
Yeah.
Because they started, some of the things that the pastor was preaching, I was like, a normal person wouldn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to give a specific, but it turned a lot of people away, and some people were questioning their faith. Like, this is a guy we're supposed to be trusting with our knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just doing that. And it's also like Waco, the Branch Davidian guys.
Yeah.
He believed that he had a different deciphering of Revelation, and that he knew something different, and he was like, okay, I need to get a bunch of people together, because we're going to be the 400,000 or whatever people to survive the apocalypse, and that he needs to have sex with all the women in the building. So yeah, to answer that question, there is a fine line between a cult and a religion.
Yeah.
Because any church can be a cult.
I mean, going off of that definition, I do think there has to be some sort of sinister thing happening, back story, or end game for it, something to be considered a cult.
Yeah, like Jonestown.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at the Jedi religion, and I don't mean like in Star Wars. I mean like the actual weirdos out there who practice
Whatever they practice.
the Jedi is
the Force.
whatever.
They follow the
It's
Force.
like, okay, I don't think they're a cult. I also don't know if I would call that a religion, but
It's classified as religion.
but it's classified as one,
Yeah.
and I think that's
It was-
because there's no sort of sinister thing happening in
Yeah.
there. It's just a bunch of
Unfuckable-
LARPers.
unfuckable white dudes. Sorry, I love Star Wars, but that's just really funny that people like in Australia,
Yeah.
like 1,000 people go to a church. to worship
We should go
the
sometime.
Force. We'll go to Hillsong and then we'll go to the Force, the Jedi Temple.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I think that is how I would define it, right? If there's some sort of sinister thing
yeah.
going on there. But at the same time, I think a cult has to be something that isn't quote unquote tried and true.
Yeah.
Like religion, if we're talking about like Christianity, it's been around for a very long time.
Thousands of years.
At least a couple thousand years, right?
Well, the Earth is only 2,000 years old, right?
That's
Right?
That's
Is that how it works?
it's a conversation for a different day.
What?
Um,
And we're flat, right, too? They're turning the frogs gay.
This is a great time to hear from our sponsors,
Yeah.
Anchor. A religion is something that's tried and true. It's been around for quite a while.
So of cults.
Name one cult that's been around for more than 100 years.
Satanic cult.
But that's a religion.
Yeah, in a sense. Yeah.
Satanism.
But I understand, like, there is some sinister background, like, when Chase spoke on our podcast a couple weeks ago about hearing, like, this woman getting, screamed or more. I don't know. Anyway.
Murdered.
But I mean, I just my piece about
But there's
it
a fine
is-
line.
There's a fine line between it because you go to some churches and they speak in tongues.
Yeah.
To me, that's cult. Or, or some churches are, I've seen some weird shit, man. And I just, if it rubs you the wrong way, then you might not want to be there.
So I've got a couple questions
Mhm.
from my lovely woman.
Oh.
She says,
Step it up, Shayla.
how do you deal with people who are against Christianity or Christians that may execute the holier than thou complex?
How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Well, you punch him in the face. That's what Jesus would do. Weave a whip.
Flip those temple tables.
I mean, it's a. Go ahead.
There's two different ways to take this question.
Yes.
The first way of taking that is, as a Christian, people who don't like Christians because they think that Christians are holier than thou,
Right. Which there are some.
which there definitely are
Yeah.
a lot of those. Or is it that how do you deal with somebody who doesn't like Christians or Christianity
Because of them.
because they feel like they're better, holier than thou?
Specific this. Okay. It's
I think it's probably the first one.
how do you deal with people who are holier now?
Yeah, like Christians who are holier than
I
thou.
mean, I've been around a lot of people. Like, I consider myself a Christian, but I swear, I cuss, I watch Harry Potter.
The way you said that with your face.
And
was
I've
just
been
so
around
great.
people that are like, how dare you watch witchcraft? I'm like, look, I'm not biting my finger till it bleeds and then writing shit in the wall. That's not who I am. I'm not doing blood magic on the left, right, nor does it damage my heart. Don't even get me started about these holier than thou fucks.
This is a great example.
Because some Christians need to paint this perfect f***ing picture. And why? Why do you have to be perfect?
Dude,
why do you have to be perfect? Just accept your flaws.
what's silly is you saying that is going to piss a lot of people off.
I don't care.
The way that you say it. Because everyone's like, oh, well,
Exactly.
he's a Christian. He's
Exactly.
saying he's a Christian, and he's not acting like one.
I'm sorry.
What does it mean to act like a Christian?
Oh my gosh.
That should be the question of the podcast, because
There's a lot of different opinions about it.
there is a ton of different. A lot of people think that, okay, well, as a Christian you can't cuss. Okay, as a Christian you can't.
Watch Harry Potter.
Harry Potter or whatever it is. The
Can't go to
stupidest
rated R
things.
movies.
Right? Is that biblical? I don't think it is.
I'm sorry. Did they have Harry Potter back in?
No, they had
Jesus
real
times?
witches.
They were fighting
She's
demons.
a witch.
They were fighting demons out in the countryside.
Seriously.
No, that is a hard question to ask because it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bible does say that Saul swore in a righteous manner, and he only used it for certain reasons.
Jesus calling the Pharisees a pack of vipers. That can't be a very nice thing to say.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did the F-bomb exist back then? Probably not.
It would be great if it did.
It'd be awesome. Get out of my f***ing temple. I think that the modern society,
Mm-hmm.
one has Americanized Jesus
Yep.
as this poster child for American prosperity, like my Jesus.
Oh man, that's
But
a
it's not.
freaking tune.
That's not it. And I think that blows my mind that people believe that.
Mm-hmm.
That people believe in prosperity gospel, that if I do good things will be on to me.
How have we gone this long and still have a white Jesus?
Exactly. Why is he white? Why is he clothed in... Go watch Passion of the Christ.
Great
and you will think differently. And that is also... I mean, they still paint him as a white Jesus. But still, I don't think he wasn't a white Jesus. He was born in the Middle East. He was probably Arabian. He was probably brown. In the Bible, it does say specifically there's nothing about his appearance that would be appealing.
Mm-hmm.
A guy walking around with crystal blue eyes and long brown hair...
No, give me a
What
break.
exactly? Open your eyes.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's sounding like Alex Jones. Open your eyes, people. Yeah. Anyway, so I can go. I don't want to go on a rant.
About a quick answer.
Yes.
So how do you deal with somebody who has that holier than thou complex as a Christian?
I don't think you can, because they're on a high horse, and it's not up to us.
What do you say to the person then who says, "No, I don't want to be a Christian. I don't even want to give church a chance. I don't want to give your faith a chance because all you Christians are holier than thou." What do you tell that person?
Let's have coffee.
That's a great answer.
Because on many occasions, I had a teacher in high school that was looking for a church, and he walked into ours, and I saw him, and he's like a 70-year-old man.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him, and I went up to him, and I was like, "Hey, man, hey, how are you? It's good to see you. I'll see you tomorrow." He came up to me like a week later, and he was like, I had already gone to 15 churches.
Wow.
And nobody, other than the people that shake your hand, who are there because they volunteered, nobody came up to me and asked me how it was. Like you did.
Yeah.
And he went to that church. He got baptized. He became a part of that church.
One little thing, man.
Exactly. Because it's that story of there's a guy trapped on a house in a flood. And he's praying to God, and he's praying to God. He's like, come save me, come save me. And this rescue boat comes by, and he says, get in the boat, I'm here to save you. He goes, no, my God's going to save me.
Mm-hmm.
And then another boat comes by, and they say, get in the boat, we're here to save you. And he's like, no, my God's going to save me. Same thing. He dies. He goes to heaven, and he goes, God, why didn't you save me? He goes, I gave you plenty of chances.
Yeah. 15 boats went your way, guy.
Exactly. Because I think that it's you, he does work in the most mysterious ways, but I think he chooses different people to do that.
Yeah.
Now, do I want to say that God was using me using me to deliver to this guy? It's I don't know. I don't want to be I felt the Holy Spirit. It's no, it was the right thing to do.
Right.
Not everybody's going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think yeah, let's have coffee.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
That's a great answer.
What would you say?
I don't know if I could do better than let's have coffee. I'm going to use that one. Because I think, it gets the point across.
Yeah.
Where, we're not, just get to give us a chance. Because,
yeah.
and I mean us by Christians or whatever.
Yeah.
And now I feel guilty. It's uncomfortable for me to say we as Christians, because the name has such a negative connotation these days.
Yeah.
Right? Where because not everybody, a lot of people do believe Christians are all holier than thou. All Christians always believe you gotta, that God hates the gays, and God, doesn't want women to have rights to their own body, and all of this, it's been so politicized.
Yep.
And to be fair, all religion has always been politicized.
Sure.
I mean, look back in the Jesus literally died because of the politics of the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an unfortunate circumstance and time that we're in that we have to deal with this, but I think that this can be the generation to prove, okay, maybe it's not what you thought it was.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think more people like you and more people like me and more people like the believers that I know are more willing to actually go out and grab a beer with someone. And before, they'd be like, oh no, we can't go out and get beers if we're talking about Jesus. That's not right. And now it's no,
show me where that says it in the Bible.
Exactly. I mean,
Didn't
literally,
yeah.
Jesus went out and was drinking and hanging out with all the prostitutes and everything all the time.
What I would always hope for my story, and if you ever want to hear it feel free. Like, call me, beat me if you want to reach me. I will tell it to you. It's long. It's sad. I know plenty of people that have worse stories than mine. But I hope that people realize that like goodness can come out of bad.
Yeah.
And your life doesn't need to have bad to make it a good thing. You know, like
Go back and listen to the Failure podcast.
right. But I think like, you know, you sort of paint it like you grew up in the church. You sort of had an easy life for the most part. And I'm just from my perspective, for the most part. And I think there are moments in life that define you as who you are. And then you can use that to change somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I always said, you know, some of the things that I post on Facebook, it's never for me. Sometimes it is for me. It's not always for me. And then I get people, I needed that today.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're right. Or I you know what? I'm going to share that because I think it you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. Anyway, any more questions?
Yeah, Taylor sent a few, so we'll just go through these real quick.
Okay.
What do you do when you feel like you're disconnected from God?
Try to find something that you feel has connected you, like where you have felt most connected.
Like a routine or something. That
Yeah.
You're like, I recognize that I feel close to God when I do this.
Yeah. Like some people read a certain book in the
Mhm.
Bible. I listen to music, and
That goes to one of our other questions. What's your favorite worship song?
I really like Come to Me by Bethel Music. That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Joe gave me a CD, and that was like the only song on that entire track. He gave me like a burned CD in my little Honda Civic. It was the only track on there that worked, and I used to listen to it all the time, and it helped me through a lot.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. What I do when I'm disconnected is try to find that one thing that always helps me reconnect.
Mhm.
And for me, that's usually traveling. Even if that's just getting in the car and driving for a couple hours in any direction,
Yeah.
right? Just getting away from whatever it is that is going on in life. You know, if that's work, get
Yeah.
away from that for a little bit. If that's friend drama or relationship drama or family drama, get away from that for a little bit.
And that's the key, is like to be, I think what we both have said is to be alone, you know, and if you feel like you're surrounded by God around people, sure. But I implore people to be alone and sort of be quiet and just listen. What is it? Be still.
Be still and know that I am God.
Oh my gosh. So that's like drilled into my head. That verse.
Donnie knows what he's doing, man.
Yeah.
And I would say real quickly, I think one of my favorite worship songs is No Longer Slaves.
Oof. I remember I first started playing bass and we played that song in your little like corner room. I didn't know any, and I was literally just playing shit. Yeah, that was a good day.
Yeah. And the last one from Taylor, this one I feel like will be quick. What makes you feel at home in a church?
I don't.
I don't either.
So there's your answer.
I think to answer that question, what makes me feel at home in a church is finding your church. And I don't mean a building. I don't mean a congregation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean finding what's your church for
Yeah.
me. And I do think there is something that we're supposed to get out of church, right? Quote unquote church. But I think that's being around believers and
Mhm.
building each other and teaching each other and gaining
Right.
wisdom and feeding each other, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what church is. And for me, that's going to 5130 retreats.
Yeah.
That's hanging out with the 5130 guys. That's getting a group of my closest friends and going to the pub for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And that's my church. So
Right.
you should never expect to feel at home in the church building. I think God calls us to find what is our church.
Right.
That's my answer.
We also have one more question
Yeah.
from Shane.
Yes.
So one of our
Shane.
followers, shout out to Shane from New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand. New Zealand,
He said, my question is, when was the first time that you showed faith in yourselves?
Yeah, that's a really good one. Should we do this whole answer in a New Zealand accent?
No, because we just met Shane.
Is that going to be very offensive to you, Shane?
Yes.
Well, I think the first time...
Stop it.
No, I think the
Ha,
first
my
time...
name is Colin.
Peace off, Ghost.
Do the feet thing.
The first time that I remember It's the first time, right? Is that what the question was?
Yeah,
Or a time?
I think yeah.
I think one of the first times I remember actually like having faith in myself to persevere.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a weird story. When I was in college, I was a film major, and we went out to go shoot this film video
Mm-hmm.
in the mountains in Phoenix. And it was a small little crew. And by
Mhm.
crew, I mean it was like me and 4 friends who were all shooting this video. We're all on the same team for this project. As we were shooting a rock climbing scene, and one of the girls had never rock climbed before, and I went ahead of her to make sure that everything was good.
Yeah.
I said, make sure you put your hands and feet specifically where I put my hands and feet.
Yeah.
As she's going up, she stops for a second. We say, okay, cool, great, head back down. Let's get another take.
How high was she?
We were about we were on like a little platform landing,
Yeah.
which was about, I don't know, maybe 8 feet off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but that platform was only about 4 or 5 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another, like the actual ground,
Yeah.
which was another 15 feet past that. So about 24, 25 feet up in the air. She goes back down to that first platform. She starts climbing back up again, does not use the same footing.
Yeah.
And hand placement, grabs a rock that was not lodged and falls back the full 24 feet and just bounces down this mountain. And it's Phoenix mountain. Like there's no shrubbery or anything. It's all rocks and cacti and just absolutely brutal. And she was torn
to shreds. Yeah.
torn to shreds on her hips and her legs and her arms, and her head was a little banged up. That was, I think, the first time that it's kind of like that fight or flight.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, am I going to panic here, or am I going to understand that I've quote unquote trained for this situation?
Mm-hmm.
And we did. We all talked about, beforehand, okay, well, if anything does go wrong, how are we going to handle that?
Right.
And so I was prepared, right? I think all of us were prepared, and I think we all handled it really well. Long story short, the fire department came and hiked her 2 miles out of
It's insane.
of the mountains that we were in. But that was one of the first times I remember having faith in myself to be like, okay, cool, you got this. You can you know what to do.
Yeah.
And you can do what you need to do.
Yeah.
In this situation. So that would be one of my times.
Oh man, that's a hard question. I mean, I struggled so long with having no faith in myself, and I think last year I just ended a toxic relationship that was just and I decided that I was overweight. I was at a weight that I always wanted to change my body to make it something great. And I always wanted to make a difference in my life, like a radical change.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it a decision, whether that was to cut out toxic traits, toxic, less social media, less video games, whatever. I mean, anyway. And for the first time, I mean, every day I woke up and I would look myself in the mirror and I'd be like, you have to do this.
Yeah.
You have no more choices. You have to do this. And it took probably about 2.5 months of hard work and just getting up and doing it every single day for 2.5 months that I actually was like, I can do this. That for the first time, I believed in what I was saying. That's when I think.
What switched?
As in what switched?
Yeah, why?
What switched? As in what switched?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Why did you just change your perspective? Did something happen?
I mean,
was it as simple as choosing to change your perspective?
No, because then I think you'd just be lying to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just like, well, if I'm just gonna believe it, then it's just. But it is you believe it until it happens.
Yeah.
I had to believe in myself. I had to be more positive, and I was like, I can do this. I can do this. I always think of there are so many people out there throughout history that either left school and was like, you know what, I'm going to make my dream happen. I'm going to create Apple. I'm going to create Google. I'm going to create, something amazing. And it's people heard through all the time because they believed in themselves. Mm-hmm. That I held on to that factor that one person can either change their life and in turn change the world. But I believed that as like, look, the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is believe in yourself. When no one else does, you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most powerful thing you can do is believe in yourself.
So, final words on the topic of faith. I would say be aware of your faith, whether that be faith in a God or in a relationship or faith in yourself or anything. Whatever you have, and you can have faith in more than one thing, obviously. So whatever it is that you do have faith in, be aware of that. Mm-hmm. Because when you're not aware of it, it slips away.
Yeah.
And when you don't train yourself and when you don't actively pursue that faith, it starts to slip away. I would say be aware of it. And be aware of what it is, mm-hmm. too. Like we said in the very beginning, like be aware of the fact that church and the Christians that you see is not a relationship with God. Yeah. You have to separate those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say be aware. That's my final.
I'm thank you, Shane, for giving us that question because it gives me a lot to think about. Yeah. Have faith in yourself. When you believe in yourself, you can be unstoppable. What I used to do, and I think I'm going to start doing it again, is I used to write things that I believe about myself or believe that I am. And then I would say them. I am so-and-so. I am this. I am that. I am powerful. I am mighty. And I said them not because I wanted to believe them, because I know they're there. I just need a reminder of them. Mm-hmm. But believe that. Think about those. And realize you are those. Take some piece of paper, write it down. I don't care. Write them down and just say them every day. And you'll realize that you are these things. You just needed the reminder. And then watch out, man. We got the next Bill Gates here.
Dude, it takes persistence.
Yeah.
And it takes courage.
Yeah. But everybody can do anything they want with their mind in the right spot.
Words from Colin, everybody. Anyone could do anything they want with their mind in the right spot.
Let's get that tattooed on my ass.
All right. Well, next week we are going to be talking about Friends. I hope that we could have Nick on.
Yep.
If you like what you're hearing.
Yes.
And you have 99 cents for a month. Let's say
we know we're in a pandemic, man.
Let's say,
every dollar counts.
You're walking down the street and you see a quarter and you pick that quarter up. You're already more than a fourth of the way there. So, open.
We are really stretching.
We're really stretching here. Go into your car, into the glove, not the glove. What's the middle compartment? Open that up.
You have it.
Everyone's got the change.
Uh-huh.
Just pick it out.
Yep.
And I don't know, put it in your bank account and send it to I don't know how that's going to work. Anyway, we want your money. If you like what you're hearing and you want to support Prone to Ponder, go to anchor.fm/Prone to Ponder and you can support us there.
Yeah.
Thanks again, everybody.
For the questions.
Yep, for the questions, for participating.
Yeah.
And we will talk to you all next week.
Bye.
Remember to be excellent to each other.